The smell was the first thing that hit me. It wasn't the familiar, musty odor of a long-neglected house, but the smell of jasmine. It was a suffocatingly sweet scent, thick and cloying, clinging to the Chiang Mai air like a layer of grease. This wasn't the pleasant aroma of fresh flowers, but the heavy, almost tangible stench of blossoms beginning to wilt, and buried deep beneath its sweetness was something else. A rank, metallic tongue, like rotting meat, left too long in the scorching sun. I stood before the heavy teak gate, my hand hesitating to touch it as the city's noise seemed to die behind me. This alley, this SOI, was always quiet, and I had avoided this place for 15 years, telling myself I was too busy, that my life in New York was more important. Now, I returned not as a dutiful grandson, but as a cleaner, a tardy inheritor. Anan. I flinched as the lawyer's low, monotone voice cut through my thoughts, his face fixed in an expression of professional sympathy. "Here are the keys," he said, holding out an old set, dangling a worn wooden charm. "According to the will, everything inside is yours now. Take your time. Call our office if you need anything." I nodded, my throat too dry to voice a thank you, and took the keys, the cold metal pressing instantly into my sweaty palm as he gave a final nod and left quickly, his hurried footsteps echoing as if he, too, didn't want to linger. I took a deep breath, the jasmine flooding my lungs, and put the key in the lock, which clicked open with reluctance. The teak gate groaned as I pushed it open, a sound that tore through the long-held silence, revealing an inner courtyard choked with weeds. My grandmother's potted plants were long dead, their bare branches pointing to the sky like accusing fingers as I approached the heavy main door. It swung open, and the jasmine smell assaulted me like a physical blow, so strong my stomach clenched. The house was pitch black, despite the bright afternoon sun, as if the light couldn't, or wouldn't, dare to penetrate the thick, grimy windows. I fumbled along the wall for the light switch, my fingers brushing against cold, damp, peeling paint. I flicked the switch, and a weak, yellowish light flickered on from the ceiling chandelier, barely illuminating a bizarre scene. All the furniture in the living room, the armchairs, the coffee table, the old television was draped in white sheets, transforming the room into a graveyard of memories, a silent congregation of ghosts patiently waiting. I began my work in an almost absolute silence, broken only by the sound of my own footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. One by one, I pulled down the white sheets, sending thick clouds of dust dancing lazily in the single weak beam of light. Everything was exactly as I remembered it from 15 years ago. The heavy, rosewood furniture carved with elephants, the faded silk embroideries on the walls, and of course, the Buddhist altar in the corner. My grandmother had been a devout Buddhist. Her altar always kept pristine with fresh flowers and fruit. I moved closer, noticing the thick layer of dust covering the bronze Buddha statue. But it wasn't the dust that caught my eye. Next to the altar, right where my grandmother always placed fresh jasmine garlands, sat a small terracotta figurine. It was a Kuman Thong. A visceral chill crawled up my spine, defying the oppressive heat. The figurine was of a naked, kneeling boy, his skin possessing an unnatural, oily sheen. His eyes, made of black glass, seemed to follow my every move. This was impossible. My grandmother would never, ever worship such a thing. She always said it was black magic, a perversion of the faith. I shuddered and turned away, telling myself there had to be a mistake, or perhaps in her final, lonely years, her loneliness had driven her to strange new beliefs. The work stretched late into the afternoon as I sorted through piles of old clothes, still smelling faintly of mothballs, yellowed stacks of magazines from the 90s, and blister packs of medicine. So many pills. Sleeping pills, tranquilizers, heart medication. The guilt began to gnaw at me from the inside, sharp and specific. I remembered her last phone call 6 months ago, her voice thin and frail, asking when I would visit. I had lied, telling her I was busy with a major project, when in truth, I was planning a vacation to Mexico with my girlfriend. I had dismissed her call, just as I had dismissed her for the last 15 years. The jasmine smell clung to me, seeping into the fibers of my clothes, into my hair and skin. And the other smell, the rot, it hadn't disappeared. It was just hiding, waiting. The first night was a true ordeal. I decided to sleep in my old bed on the second floor, but even with fresh sheets, the air in the room felt stale. The wooden house groaned and settled in the night chill, a normal sound for old Thai houses, accompanied by the steady TK to CK of a gecko on the wall. The ceiling fan turned slowly, listlessly, stirring the thick air in a weary, rhythmic creak, creak. I lay on the bed, drenched in sweat, trying to ignore the overwhelming sensation of being watched. It was a palpable feeling, like a physical pressure on my chest. I shut my eyes tightly, trying to picture New York's neon lights, the blare of sirens, the constant, comforting noise of the city that never sleeps. Then I heard it. A whisper. It was so soft. At first I thought it was just the wind finding its way through a crack in the window, or the rustle of dry leaves outside. But it had a rhythm, steady, repetitive, like a prayer, a looped chant of syllables I couldn't understand. I held my breath, listening. The whisper was coming from the first floor, from the living room directly beneath me. I sat bolt upright, and the room was plunged into thick darkness. The fan still creaked, the gecko still clicked, but the whispering had stopped, instantly, the very moment I moved. The silence that followed was 100 times more terrifying. A heavy, suffocating blanket. I could hear my heart hammering in my chest, hear the blood rushing in my ears. "Grandma," I called out, an act of pure stupidity. She was gone. There was no answer. I lay back down but couldn't sleep, staring into the darkness where I thought the closet door was. I had the distinct feeling that if I blinked, the door would slowly swing open. The next morning, I woke with aching muscles and hollow, sunken eyes. The sunlight streaming into the room offered no warmth. It only served to illuminate the dust motes, hanging suspended in the air. I tried to reassure myself. It was just a hallucination, brought on by fatigue, guilt, and the unsettling nature of an old house. I decided to go outside for some fresh air, finding the alley just as it had always been, with its tightly packed houses and clotheslines strung between them like spiderwebs. I saw Panid, the oldest neighbor in the alley, who had been here since I was a child. She was sweeping her front porch with a frayed broom. I offered a "why," pressing my palms together. "Sawazdi, Panid." She looked up, her eyes narrowing in the bright sun, studying me for a long moment before recognition dawned. "Anan, my boy. You're back." "Yes, I'm here to take care of the house." I tried to force a smile. Panid stopped sweeping, resting her hands on the broom handle, her gaze sharpening as it fixed on me. "Your grandmother." Her voice dropped, losing its neighborly warmth. "She changed a lot before she passed." A cold dread trickled down my back, despite the heat. "How did she change?" "She stopped leaving the house," Panid said, glancing toward my gate. "For the last 6 months. No one saw her step outside that gate. We'd bring food, and she would only accept it through a crack in the door." She paused, as if weighing her next words, and she started whispering. My heart seemed to skip a beat. Whispering. "Yes," Panid nodded. "All day, all night. We could all hear it, the closest neighbors. The sound just leaked out, like she was talking to someone. Or something." She stepped closer to me, her voice dropping to a gravelly rasp. "And that jasmine smell. Always jasmine, even when the flowers weren't in season. It was overpowering. It made people sick. Don't stay in there alone. Anan, some spirits don't want to be left behind." Her warning clung to me like a physical ghost as I returned to the house, slamming the gate shut. The silence of the house was no longer empty. It was listening. The jasmine stench was stronger now, and the smell of rot was more distinct. I knew I had to face her room, the one at the end of the first-floor hallway, the one where she had spent her final days. I stood before the door, which was shut tight. I grabbed the brass handle. It was unnaturally cold. I turned it. It was stuck. I took a breath, braced myself, and slammed my shoulder into the door. It didn't budge. I hit it again, harder. With a horrific crack of splintering wood, the door flew open. The stench that rolled out was so foul, I nearly threw up. It was the smell of jasmine, but jasmine that had rotted, mingled with the metallic tang of decomposition. It stung my eyes. I raised my hand to cover my nose, trying to hold my breath. The room was pitch black, darker than any other part of the house, the curtains drawn tight. I rushed to the window and ripped the heavy velvet curtains aside. The entire rod came crashing down with them. Weak daylight filtered in, revealing a horrific sight, sin. They were everywhere. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of white, blessed threads. They were strung from the door handle to the bedposts, from the window frame to the corners of the wardrobe. They formed a dense, intricate web, as if trying to seal something in. But all of them, every single thread, had been cut, sliced, torn apart, as if something had clawed its way out, or clawed its way in. I backed away, stumbling into her small altar. Everything on it clattered to the floor, an incense burner, a photo frame. I bent to pick them up. Next to an old photo of my grandfather was a new one, a photo of my grandmother. It must have been taken just months ago. She was emaciated, her cheeks hollowed out, her eyes sunken and dead. But the thing that froze the blood in my veins wasn't her appearance. It was her smile. It was a grotesque, unnatural grin, stretching from ear to ear. It didn't reach her hollow eyes. It was as if invisible hands were pulling at the corners of her mouth, forcing her to smile. And in the shadows behind her, standing right behind her chair, a shape. It was faint, barely visible, but it was there. Something tall, gaunt, standing there, staring directly at the camera. I dropped the photo, and it clattered to the floor. I had to get out. I bolted from the room, ran through the living room, grabbing my camera bag and backpack. I didn't care about the rest of it. I would call the lawyer. I would sell the house. I would burn it to the ground. I grabbed the handle of the front door. It didn't move. I pulled. I twisted. It was sealed tight, as if welded shut. I checked the lock. It was open. But the door would not open. Panic began to rise in my throat. "Please," I whimpered. "Please open." I pounded on the wooden door. "Help me." Panid, help. There was no answer. Only the crushing silence of the house. And then, the whisper. It wasn't upstairs anymore. It wasn't in her room. It was in the living room, right behind me. "Anan." The voice was parched, ancient, like dry leaves scraping across the wooden floor. It was trying to imitate my grandmother's voice, but it failed. It was too deep, too raspy. I spun around slowly. The living room was sinking into shadow as the day faded, the light outside turning a sickly gray. The room was empty. The white-sheeted furniture sat still. "Who's there?" I screamed, my voice cracking in terror. "I know you're there. Show yourself." I backed up, my body hitting the solid door. I fumbled in my bag for my camera, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I'm a photographer. I trust what I see through the lens. I raised the camera, pointing it into the darkness. "Anan." The whisper again, closer, so close. Right next to my ear. Its breath was the stench of rotten jasmine. It was ice cold. I screamed and pressed the shutter. The flash exploded. For one blinding millisecond, the room was illuminated, and I saw it. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't smoke. It was real. It was cowering in the corner where the shadows were thickest, as if the light painted. It had the shape of a woman, but it was too tall. Its limbs were unnaturally long, thin as dry branches. Its skin was wrinkled and gray, like ash. It had no hair, no eyes, just a gaping mouth, a black, cavernous hole in its flat face. And it was wearing my grandmother's favorite silk dress. The darkness snapped back, as quick as a trap. The whisper now turned into a hiss, a sound of pure rage. I trembled, raising the camera again. Another flash. It had moved. It was right in front of me, only a few feet away. It was crouched low, its long, branch-like fingers scraping the floor. Its black mouth was open wider. And the stench, the overwhelming stench that had haunted me, poured from it. I fell backward, and the camera flew from my hands, skittering across the floor. It roared, a sound that did not belong in this world. A sound of starvation and a long festering rage. I scrambled backward toward the door, pounding my back against the wood. Nowhere to run. I glanced at the altar. The Kuman Thong figurine. It was gone. You can't leave. The whisper was no longer in one place. It was inside my head. It was using the memory of my grandmother's voice. Grandma was so lonely. You left her. You won't leave her again. And then I understood. The horrifying, cold truth pierced my heart. The sisyn threads weren't to keep it out. They were to lock it in. It had been here for a long time. It had latched onto her. It wasn't her spirit. It was the thing that had imprisoned her. It had fed on her. It had grown strong on her loneliness, her fear, her regret, and now she was gone. It was free, and it was hungry. It needed a replacement. My guilt. That's what had called it. That's what had kept me here. It was the key that had opened its cage. No. I choked out, tears streaming down my face. I'm not her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You are, the voice replied. I felt it. A light, feathery touch on my ankle. Cold, so cold. The single, weak bulb in the ceiling chandelier began to flicker. On, off, on, off. It was playing with me. In every sliver of light, it was closer. On. It was in the middle of the room, slowly straightening to its full height. Off. Silence. My heartbeat. On. It was towering. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. It was tilting its head, as if curiously listening to my terror. Off. On. It was right above me, looming. That black, cavernous mouth was opening. Wider and wider. Off. The room plunged into absolute final darkness. I wasn't screaming anymore. I had no air left to scream. I only felt the bone-deep cold envelop me. And the smell. The rotten, suffocating jasmine. It filled my trachea, my lungs. It forced its way into my mouth. I heard one last whisper. It wasn't trying to sound like my grandmother. It wasn't its own guttural hiss. It was in my own voice. Stay here, forever. Thanks for watching until the end. What was your favorite part? Please let me know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss my future content. Your support is my biggest motivation. Thank you all so much.